What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about why Norway is amazing. Part 2. If you have not seen part 1 of this video series, just go back one video before this one and check out part 1. But basically, this American girl has been telling her sort of life story about her time living in Norway, loving it, learning the language, enjoying the food, and some of the things that stuck out to her as an American and her experience in Norway, which has really been quite helpful for me and quite interesting because I feel like I can relate to a lot of the new experiences that she's explaining. So I've enjoyed this. So I'm really excited for this part 2. So let's take a look.
The culture in Norway, originally, I didn't really understand the culture at first. You go to a new country and you don't really understand it yet. You're not integrated. And so I remember first arriving in Norway and kind of feeling out of place, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point because for Americans, they have an idea in their mind. We do, we have an idea in our head of like the UK or like Spain or something, or even France, maybe some of the, like how it'll be, or the culture. We don't really have a good idea about what Norway is like. It's not a country that Americans typically talk a lot about or do a lot of research about. So I absolutely understand how she and basically most Americans would experience incredible culture shock visiting Norway.
Kind of feeling disconnected because I wasn't fully integrated in the culture. I feel like a really big part of the culture in Norway is the language. Being able to understand what other people are expressing and being able to express yourself and express your personality is huge. And I feel like I began to understand Norwegian culture a lot quicker and more deeply when I really embraced the language and when I decided to stop speaking English.
Wow, that's actually pretty amazing. Like, it would be so easy as an American to just speak English in Norway, knowing that most Norwegians are very, very good at English and probably willing to talk to you in English. And she kind of made it her mission to not fall into that trap because she wanted the real Norwegian experience. I've said this before. Hearing Norwegian and reading it sounds incredibly difficult. But they do say that speaking a different language does change your mindset. You kind of start acting more like that culture. It's quite fascinating.
Which is something I did after I had been in Norway for about 4.5 months. I decided, okay, no more English because it's not helping me anymore. So that's something that really helped me love the Norwegian people when I loved the language, and I really kind of decided, okay, this is where I am now and this is what matters. And so I'm going to forget the past and I'm going to really focus on Norwegian. And yeah, like I said, once I did that, my love for the culture and the people just grew exponentially. But
that's a good tip just for if you want to learn a language, force yourself to not speak anything but that language. That might be obvious to Norwegians because a lot of Norwegians are bilingual, but Americans are not bilingual. Americans only speak English. It is very rare to meet an American that speaks more than one language. So that's more of a good tip for me.
But Norwegians are generally more private than Americans. Very private, a little bit more closed off in the beginning. And it takes time to get them to open up and to get them to trust you. They're not people that trust people very easily. But
that's something I've heard before a few times. Norwegians are not quite like Americans who will get very open with you very quickly, talk to you, bug you, bother you, tell you their opinion on things, all sorts of stuff. And Norwegians are more reserved, closed off, but when you do become friends in Norway or earn trust, it means a lot more, I think.
What I found was after developing a relationship with them and after proving myself or proving my love for their culture and for their country, they really opened their hearts and opened their homes. And the relationship that I then had with them was so deep, and it still is there's so many people that I still have such great contact with, that really care about what I'm doing in my life, that really reach out to me, and they want to know what I'm doing. They want to know how I'm doing, because the connection that they make with others is so deep when they let people in. And that's something that I really value and I really cherish about their culture, is the depth of relationships that they have and the loyalty, the fierce loyalty that they have to their friends and their family. It's unlike what I've seen here in America.
Yeah, I mean, it does exist in America. It's not like we're all just these loosey-goosey, fluky, flaky people who don't care about each other and are just surface level. But it does sound like Norway has that on maybe a greater level, or it takes much more time to achieve that, and therefore it's much more like meaningful.
Cost of living, yeah, very different. So Norway is obviously one of the most expensive countries in the world. I think it might be second or third. I'm not sure. I felt like clothes were similarly priced in Norway. Maybe people won't agree with me, but I felt like they were pretty reasonable. Groceries are more expensive. Yes, housing is very expensive in Norway, very expensive.
Yeah, I would think, I mean, Norway is not a gigantic place in like area. So there's only so much room for housing, and there's only so many cities and places and real estate. So I can see where that would be very expensive. Plus, because Norway is so desirable to live in, things are just more expensive. Like, you can charge more for a home in Norway because there's a lot of people who probably want to buy it.
Transportation is very different in Norway. Public transportation is very big. You can get almost anywhere by taking the bus or the train, unless it's really remote. I got really used to taking the bus everywhere, taking the train, meeting new people on the bus and the train. That was my favorite way to talk to people and, meet new people, was by talking to them on public transportation.
Wow. Yeah. In America, public transportation is... You don't use it unless you absolutely have to. Or maybe if you live in a major city. Like, I have not taken public transportation in years. Decades. Jeez.
And it's just really convenient. They have a really good system there. This is something my grandma told me before I went. She said the one thing that I noticed when I got to Norway was how clean it was everywhere. That it was really clean. And I mean, where I live in Utah, it's also very clean. But I did find that Norway was probably one of the cleanest, like, larger cities out there.
Yeah. I think this just goes to, like, it's a cultural thing. Because Americans, certainly wouldn't describe them as clean. They don't have a ton of respect for being clean and taking care of a city and stuff. Like, it's definitely a cultural thing. Kind of like how crime is more common in America than in Norway.
If you think about large cities in the US, like, for example, New York City or other cities, they're pretty dirty, kind of a little bit gross, a little bit grimy. But Norway is really a really clean place. Like, the punishments for things in Norway are much more minor, especially for punishments for crimes of people under 18, minors. I think the US is a lot more harsh when it comes to crime and other felonies or misdemeanors or things like that. One other culture difference.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's probably true. America, I know, is pretty harsh. I didn't know Norway was, like, a little lenient. I have learned about the Norwegian prison system and an emphasis on reforming prisoners and treating them respectfully, which I really enjoyed. But we're talking about minor crimes here. So that makes sense, right? Because you don't necessarily want to ruin the life of, like, a kid, a teenager, who can't really process what they're doing, you know?
This was probably that Norwegians eat dinner really, really early. They eat dinner at 4 p.m. I mean, some families eat a little bit later, but at least in America, we eat later at 6 or 7 or 8. I know families that even eat way late. They eat at 9, which is crazy.
I think I've heard this before. Norwegians eat at 4 p.m. Dinner? That is just so early. Yeah, I don't eat till 7? Because then, do Norwegians have, like, a meal after dinner? Like an after dinner snack or something? Wouldn't you be so hungry before you go to bed? I like to eat kind of soon to when I go to bed so I'm not hungry. Maybe that's just me. I'm also a little weird because I eat later than most Americans. I'd say most Americans eat at 5 or 6. I can eat at 7 or 8. It is true.
Because usually by 9, I'm like getting ready for bed. I sleep very early. But I think that was kind of different for me to eat dinner that early, but I liked it a lot. Well, one of the activities we do as missionaries or
Wait, then when do you eat lunch? Oh boy.
volunteers for the church is we go out and we talk to people and we see who is interested to hear our message. And one night we were out and we were knocking on doors and we knocked on this woman's door and she was so nice and she invited us in and gave us waffles and soda. And
Yeah, that would never happen in the United States. If you were like going around knocking on doors, trying to like tell people your message, or if you're advocating for like your church or something, no one is going to invite you inside. They're going to be extremely rude to you and tell you to go away. Like, I'm pretty confident in that. So Norwegians in general just seem like nicer.
we shared a message, of course, and she's like, come back because you guys should try on my daughter's bunader, which are like these traditional Norwegian dresses that they wear on the 17th of May, which is Norwegian's Independence Day. And
Right.
so she wasn't super interested in our message, but we decided to go back on our preparation day, just as like an activity to go visit her and see if we could do any service for her, help her out with anything. And then, yes, look at the bunader, or the bunads, I don't know how to say it in English, the bunads, and try them on. And so she let us try on her daughter's, like, amazing, they're these white blouses, and then it's
Yeah, like traditional Norwegian dresses. That's pretty cool.
kind of like a tank top, kind of, and then it's embroidered with beautiful just stitching, and then they have like brass clasps, and as well as, I don't know what you call them, silver like embellishments, like clips that you put on, just super expensive. And her name was Toril, and she told us like, email your parents and tell them send money so you can buy bunader because they're just so beautiful and it's a big part of Norwegian tradition. So that was a really fun experience to try on a real bunad, and yeah, it was really heavy actually, but I always
So this random person just invited her into their house and cooked them waffles and food. Asked them to come back and then let them try on their daughter's dress. That is certainly not even remotely possible to something that would happen in America.
always wanted to buy one, but yeah, they're pretty expensive. Det som jeg vil si til det norske folk det at jeg uendelig takknemlig for den tiden som jeg fikk til å bo I Norge og få oppleve kulturen.
I feel like I need closed captions. Like,
Samt som språket og naturen og maten og
there's no translation. Well, I have no idea what she is saying right now.
alt mulig, egentlig. Jeg takknemlig for, særlig for folket som tok imot meg, selv da jeg ikke kunne
Honestly, I'm just kind of enjoying listening to her talk in Norwegian, even though I don't understand what she's saying. I've never just like sat and listened to Norwegian like continuously.
forstå norsk så godt, og selv om de ikke engang kjente meg, de som ville åpne sine armer og ta imot en som kom fra et annet land.
You know, the words and pronunciations, I guess, are sort of similar to English words. Because I had heard that for an English speaker, Norwegian is like kind of similar or easier for us to learn. So I'm kind of getting a little of that. Still have no idea what she is talking about.
Som bare ville dele budskap, eller eller det som var viktigste for meg egentlig. Jeg vet at det var meningen, det var mye mening, det var mening med at jeg skulle bli sendt til Norge, at jeg skulle være frivillig misjonær der, fordi det var så mange opplevelser som jeg
I was trying to see if maybe there was some way I could like recognize some of the words she is saying. I cannot understand a single thing. So I'm going to skip a little bit. I hope she wasn't saying anything too important.
Og også de som jeg kanskje ikke kjenner, som er gode folk i Norge, som påvirker andre og som hjelper andre og føler seg inkludert. Og for å lære noen norske folk. Takk. Takk for at dere ser på denne videoen. I love Norway.
Okay. I did not know she was just going to go into full Norwegian for the last like 2 minutes of the video. That's okay though. I don't mind it. I am very impressed with her ability to do that. I wish I could do that. Anyway, I enjoyed this. This video was by Lifey, and I liked it. Any comments? Oh, look, the comments are actually in Norwegian. That's cool. Let me see if I can translate one. Norwegian to English. All right, I have no idea what this says. Very good Norwegian pronunciation. Very impressed. Interesting to hear how you experienced the meeting with Norway and Norwegian people. Very nice. Okay. I'll just do a couple of these comments, I guess. Your Norwegian is extremely impressive. Incredibly good. I guess she's got like a good Norwegian like pronunciation and accent and everything. Okay, this is a top comment. Thank goodness for Google, right? I've never heard an American speak Norwegian so well. Impressive. Wow. Okay. Proud that you enjoyed your stay in Norway. As a Norwegian myself, I would dearly welcome you once the pandemic is over. Side note, your Norwegian pronunciation is top notch. Well, I guess just speaking nothing but Norwegian in Norway for months is a really, really good idea for actually learning how to speak the language well. Because apparently she's very good, according to the comments. Pretty cool. Anyway, if you found this video cool or interesting, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway, Norwegian culture, things in Norway that I have never seen, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.